What is up? Hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit that bell, select all, leave a comment down below if you feel like doing so, and don't forget to check out Facebook group page. Keep pounding in all caps for in-game posts, polls, opinions, and reactions to NFL news such as scheduling for the channel and for the Yahoo Sports app. Keep pounding Fantasy Football League. If you want to get your hands on an intro like the one you see on the screen, go check out Lindara Ty on Instagram using her last name first in the search bar. Tai.Lindara, Lindara. She's looking for new clients. She'll help you if you are a streamer or a future endeavor streamer. So, she does intros, panels, videos, etc. She's looking for new clients. She is awesome to work with, fair pricing, and just awesome in general. And technically, I shouldn't even have to be sponsoring her on the channel anymore because our contract ran out, but screw it. I like her work. And I know you guys do too. So go check her out if you're looking for new work, man. Tell her we sent you. She'll hook you up. Alright. So we're doing a music stream today. We're going to be talking some music podcast stuff. Starting with the Black Sabbath Back to the Beginning concert, because I think there's no other way to begin integrating music into this channel than that right there, because it is just that historical, and there were so many musicians that were involved with that, and I am going to have my buddy Jeremy join us for this in just a moment. Alright, so he is currently joining me on Discord. But yeah, we're good to go, buddy. Switch on over.
Yeah, I'm trying to click on the link right above the football video.
No, it's in your private DMs.
Oh, private DMs, okay.
Yep.
Sorry about that, not used to using Discord.
It's all good. Hey, I'm still working on it myself. We do a lot of troubleshooting on these streams. It's all good. You know how it is.
Yeah. Where do I go for the DMs again?
It should be the top one on the top left bar. Should say direct messages. And you should see a link that says that I invited you. You find it?
Hold on a second.
Mm-hmm. Sit tight, folks. We're trying to get this all worked out. My other guest was not able to join us at the moment, so maybe he might join us later on tonight. I don't know, but he won't be on here for long.
Let's see. So I clicked on you down here.
Yeah, there should be a
And that's what I get.
Yeah, that one down there at the bottom.
Oh, join voice?
Yep. That's the one.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Cool. And it should let you use camera. I don't know if it does or not. It won't use my camera because the Streamlabs is using my camera. But you should be able to use yours. Alright, so just hang up on Messenger and you'll be able to talk through Discord.
Alright.
Coming in loud and clear. They can hear you too.
Awesome.
All right, what's good? What's good? What's good? Let me just Zoom chat. Sometimes Zoom wants to work. Sometimes Discord wants to work with it. Sometimes it doesn't. Um, we'll put it on this one. That'll work for me. Sit tight, y'all. Shout out Marco's Cash. He says, "What's up, Corey? Don't get me started on music. I have no favorite music. I'll listen to anything if it's good." Yeah, we're gonna be talking in particular about the Black Sabbath Back to the Beginning concert. So, if you guys were a part of that or saw that, you know, and I think it's a great segue to what we're trying to do to introduce music to the channel. As kind of that extra source of. All right. So where do you want to start? Because
Not too sure, really. I mean, there's so much to talk about. Like when it comes to emotions, all the
mm,
rumors surrounding the meaning of this last concert, why they pretty much came out of retirement one more time for one more show. You know, been following a lot of the Reddits and this and that, and there's most certainly a lot to talk about amongst the metal community when it comes to the reasoning, some people's favorite songs, how they approve of some of the bands that were doing tributes to Ozzy and Sabbath and all that, and some others they didn't. I mean, me and you were watching it online, and we were reading the messages that were just really messed up.
yeah, that was wild. I thought that the chat section was interesting to start with because
Yeah, it was.
you you had a bunch of people from Europe on there, in particular the UK, um, and they were very uptight about a lot of the things that they were seeing and listening to.
Hmm.
Very picky, I should say. You know, and after years of listening to like really heavy metal that is way heavier than what we have in America, it makes sense.
Hmm.
So I can see that. Um,
In
uh,
a sort of way, and this is just how I look at things. But in a way, it's come full circle. You gotta think about
mm,
it this way: all the main bands from way back in the day, I believe most of them come from the UK. No?
that is actually true. Yeah. Um,
Yeah, most of that stuff started in the UK. Then no matter how it came over to the US, then bands like Kiss, Judas Priest, if I'm not mistaken, and all these other American bands that have just evolved. And it's there's a lot of influence out there.
mm-hmm,
Ozzy and Sabbath and all that are pretty much the number one of that.
mm-hmm.
But it's really interesting to. I'm only 37, but yeah, I it doesn't take much to realize how much metal has evolved in a way. It started off in the UK, then it came to the US and all that, and a bunch of stuff started and all that, and then the Europeans, whether German, Italian, French, so forth and so on. Now
Mhm.
they're creating the same type of music that we've been doing since the 80s, 90s, or whatever. They're creating some of the same stuff that we are, but they are taking it to the next level. Soprano style vocals, a lot of keyboard and little DJ effects, along with heavy guitar riffing. It's just phenomenal, man. As a fellow guitar player myself, I really admire the evolution of the sound.
Absolutely agree. I think Nightwish is an excellent example of that because they incorporate like at least half a dozen different styles of music into their songs, and I think it's just fascinating,
Right.
you know, because
Hmm.
you can from any one song you could hear Irish, Scottish influence to Norwegian influence to you know synthesized to pop in a way. It's just crazy when you go through their catalog. It's remarkable. How much that they have pushed themselves to keep evolving. And as for Jensen has said, the vocalist for them. If you haven't heard Nightwish, go look them. Phantom, it's crazy. Um, but Floor has said that they're not done experimenting. They're just getting started. And I'm looking at them like, whoa. After listening to about 3 or 4 albums worth of their stuff, I'm like, there's more you could explore? Like, they're just scratching the surface. Is crazy.
You do have those rare bands. Um, take the Trans Siberian Orchestra, for example.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it, but I can hear at least three, no, excuse me, two different types of music styles
Mm-hmm.
in their music.
I, th-
Obviously, guitar.
I think it's becoming common to have like 2 or 3 different styles in each album nowadays for a lot of
Right.
the major bands out there, major label bands. Um, but the
Hmm.
ones that are really stretching it out and going 3 or 4, 5 even and beyond that are that are unsigned and are just not even discovered yet. Those guys are going to change the game. And ladies, you know, um, for example, I would have never heard of the band Plush, had I not gone to a Disturbed concert, and Plush was opening for them.
Right.
And these ladies
I
rock,
want.
man.
Oh yeah. I think a little bit of the subject of metal music, the community, whether
Mm-hmm.
worldwide or whatever. I have seen over the past few years, former professional musicians such as Gene Simmons, who is like, rock and roll's dead, this and or metal's dead, or metal's ruining rock and roll, or whatever the crap that he's pulling out of his mouth. My thing is, I mean, yeah, dude, you know, stuff has evolved since 80s and 70s rock. Yeah, you guys, were that the hair metal thing was all popular back then. And trust me, some people, like myself, still enjoy the music from back then. Do I listen to a lot of Iron Maiden, Motley Crue, and all that? Oh, absolutely. Not a doubt. But the thing is that it's not dead or nothing.
No,
You know,
certainly not dead.
metal is not, no, metal is not dead whatsoever. What he's failing to see, and I'll argue with the man all day and night, respectfully, of course, about the subject. My thing is,
Same.
metal isn't dead, it's just continuing to evolve, which is
Exactly.
more variety, which is more branches off that main tree.
And I've got a few points to make on that. Since you brought that up, we haven't even gotten into the main topic yet, but you know what? Since you brought that up, let's get into it. So,
Right.
Gene Simmons, I can't stand this dude, but he's an exemplary businessman, and you know I give credit where it's due. That man,
I know.
anything you slap the Kiss name on, it will sell. Even a bag of air. He was selling air guitars, air picks, air drums, and they were selling, dude, because they had the Kiss name on it. And I was like, how in the world did this dude unlock the secrets to doing this? Like, it's
And that
crazy
just
as a businessman, myself.
and that just proves my point from earlier. That just literally with the Kiss name still on it doesn't prove people still remember in their heart. I don't know what to tell you, man.
All right, so with Gene Simmons, he just needs to stay in his lane. That's all I'm asking him to do. Like, that's all anybody's asking him to do. Just stay in your lane and don't open your mouth about things you don't understand when it comes to the rock and metal community, because most of what you say is just wrong. It's just flat out wrong. And you've been proven wrong so many times, bro. And you just keep doing it. Like, I don't understand. Like, he just can't leave well enough alone. And I feel like the older he gets, the worse he's going to get with this. You know, because of, you know, how older folks are with that stuff, you know, in the rock community. And I get it, you know, but if that Black Sabbath concert didn't prove to you that metal is not dead, I don't know what will. You got metal festivals all over the world. You got rock festivals all over the world. You got bands touring everywhere. Literally everywhere. Even in your own hometown, Gene. Just because you don't like the bands that are on those tours and you don't like the bands that are on those festivals does not make, you know, does not mean that metal is dead. I'm sorry, it's just
And
flat out not true. Ozzy just proved that himself.
and I want to shed a little bit more light on that tiny little subject. Um, and this is for anybody who watched that concert, whether you were physically at that concert or
Mm,
watching it online. Doesn't matter.
right.
I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure that Ozzy looking out in the crowd and imagining all the people that are watching online and all that noticed that man knew he built a freaking empire, a legacy, and he saw the fruits of his labor in that concert. He saw the love,
100%.
and you could see it in his eyes. He wanted to cry because right there and then he realized he started all that.
He created this, dude. Like, it's insane.
Exactly.
And it's going to last generation after generation after generation and never die until the end of
Nope.
humanity. Like, you created an idea, and you can't kill an idea.
Nope.
And that's what rock is. It's a rebellious idea. Metal is a way to express everything you can't say in words to somebody. You know, you
And
put it
it's like,
in rhythms, you put it in writing, you put it in drum beats. Every cymbal hit. You know, it's a beautiful art form. It really is. And
hmm
Ozzy, like, my God, dude, like, the thing is, like, I saw like a video of like the top 5 people that Ozzy didn't like, you know, in music, and
right.
what's interesting is like how he put those comments, you know, about the people he didn't like. It's the context of it. Because he was like, "Oh, who are these blokes in a mask? You know, it's more about theater than music." You know, where's the substance? And I was like, you know what? He's exactly right. He's exactly right. You know, and the difference between, you know, bands like those that have no idea what they're doing versus Slipknot who have masks on and really know what they're doing. You know, Ozzy messes with Slipknot, man. He wanted to be a 10th member of Slipknot because he understood the substance of what they were doing. That's the difference. You know, when you can understand what
Yep.
is being created, you know, then it's a whole different ballgame. You know, he's had beef uh, with Kiss, which is not surprising. You know, all the same people that I pointed out several times. You know, off camera. GK, he can't decide what genre he wants to be in. That dude has pissed everybody off. You know,
I'm not even. Let's not even go. Okay, because I could rip on that dude so hard. It's not
oh
even
yeah,
funny.
we could be here for an hour on just him. And Canada can keep Justin Bieber and Chad Kroger as well. You can keep both of them. Leave the rest of the band of Nickelback, but keep Chad Kroger, please. We'll find a new vocalist. As much as I like a few of Nickelback songs, but he is such a prick. Anyway, um, there's a few voices you can't replace, like Billy Corgan, but you know, it is what it is. And speaking of which, he was actually actively involved in that. Back to the beginning show. Um, I think let's start with the different artists that showed up. You know, in there. I think the one that surprised me was Youngblood. I wasn't expecting him to be invited, and it took me off guard. His cover was great, and just him in general, you know, just being there, really pumped up the crowd, and you could feel the. I totally wrote him off, and I should not have done so because, you know, as we're talking about him, this dude actively challenged, you know, all the ticket sales people, you know, like Ticketmaster, Live Nation, people like that, you know, and said, you know, you're charging these people too much. These people are having to pay an arm and a freaking leg, you know, just to get in the door, you know, and no one's ever really done that to the degree that he has, except for Ronnie Radke so far. Um, you know, you hear artists, you know, during sets and stuff say, "Oh yeah, it's too much to get in the door," blah 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 blah. But none of them actually did anything about it until Youngblood. You know, tours because people were having to pay an arm and a leg for merch, and he was just like, "That's just not fair to y'all." You know, we want a fan experience. You know, yeah, it sucks that we have to take the merch out, you know, to make sure that you're able to enjoy the show. But you know, it's just ridiculous that people are having to pay that much for anything in these places, and it's getting worse. But respect to him, I really overlooked him, and I won't be doing that anymore.
Yep.
Um, who was your surprising artist that you didn't expect to be there?
Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, of course. apart from the bands that couldn't be there because they were on tour at the moment, such as Slipknot, so forth and so on.
We
But
had
for
a
the
couple
most
of
part,
members there.
um, even Slash was there.
Yeah.
Perform. No,
I think
I
Steven
don't ever.
Tyler was one of
I
them
don't
that surprised
recall
me.
seeing anybody that wasn't on the list.
Steven Tyler was the one that surprised me as
Mm.
well. I didn't expect him to be there either. But I knew he had deep connections with Ozzy, so at the same time, it didn't surprise me. Because, like,
I think the only band that I honestly even close to wasn't expecting to be there was the dude with the freaking mask. I can't even remember the band's name at the moment. I
um,
listen to them, but not frequently, so it's hard for me to remember the name.
Ghost.
I want to say Ghost.
Tobias was there. Yeah.
It's either the name of the band or the song.
Tobias was there from Ghost. But he's really the only
Yeah, I don't.
recognizable name from Ghost.
Mm.
Because they've had multiple people, switching out through the years, throughout the ghost masks and everything, and all the ritual gear and everything. So it's kind of crazy.
Right.
I
Too much about them.
I know that Jack has shown Ozzy ghost songs, and he was on board with it. So by the same token, like I see that was surprising too. I did not expect him to show up. So what threw a gigantic wrench into this whole thing was Sharon Osbourne actually threw a band off the bill about a month before the show. That was never advertised, and from what I've gathered, I believe it's a Black Sabbath tribute band in the UK. Because they came forward on their social media page and said that we were the band that was kicked off and blah 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 blah. Our band manager was looking for money and this and that and the third, but it was a charity concert, so the point was not to make money off of it, but to honor Sabbath. And this is a punch to the gut of everybody that hated Sharon Osbourne.
I heard something about that too, actually, about the.
Yeah, go ahead.
All I'm gonna say is if you think all I'm gonna say is if you think the Prince of Darkness himself is something, who do you think is his equal? It's his wife. You tick that woman off, yeah. I was just gonna end up writing a freaking song about you because of how badly she demolished you.
Right. And that's the interesting thing is like she caused a ton of controversy by doing this, but she did it for the right reasons. And it's a punch to the gut to the people that hated Sharon Osbourne because everybody's just like, oh, she's doing it for extra money. She's trying to squeeze more money. She's doing this, that, and the third for more money. It's like, hold up a minute. She just shut all of y'all up with one concert and didn't even have to say a word. That's what's hilarious about that. So, yeah, humble yourselves. All the people that are sharing haters right now, humble
Yeah,
yourselves on
but
that one. Now, if you don't like her because of a personal encounter or something like that, fair enough. But you can't use that excuse anymore.
yeah,
Yeah, that don't fly no more, man.
yeah. Sharon Osbourne really does not mess around.
Mm-mm. And it's interesting how she's met a ton of people in the music business, and had a ton of adventures. Like, she's a fascinating woman. Like, I absolutely am invested in learning as much as I can about the Osbournes, because it's a very interesting family when you get down to it. Um, if you've ever seen the Ghost Adventures, if you've ever seen Ozzy
Let's
and Jack
see.
Adventures,
I know a little bit about.
and Jack is just such an awesome dude, man. I freaking love Jack. That's my dude, man. I would absolutely sit down and have a conversation with him. It would be fascinating to talk to him. One on one. There's just so much that he would have to
That
share
would
with
be
us,
interesting.
and he'd probably give a few stories that he couldn't say on camera too. You know what I mean? Or in a book, which I would be very very interested in, because I know that man's got quite a few of Ozzy himself.
Probably.
So what was interesting to me is the Ozzy and Jack adventures when they went around touring, to different places, you know, haunted places, just all kinds of wacky stuff. And it is confirmed that Ozzy did piss on the Alamo, and they got that settled. So that show actually proved it. Like, everybody was just like skeptical before that. Most people believed it because it was Ozzy, but they actually did confirm it.
I'm not
It's,
saying a word.
but I mean, it's Ozzy in his drug years. You know what I mean? Like, you can blame him, but
You
at the
know,
same time, you can't. You know what I mean? It's everybody was strung up that during
I
those times.
remember. I I remember when I used to watch the Osbourne show. I forget exactly what number episode it was, but there was this one episode
Mm.
where he's like talking to one of his kids or whoever, sitting on
Mm.
the couch, and he's like, "You know, you know, I love you more than others, but you're driving me bleeding crazy." Something to
Right. That junk was crazy, man. I thought it was fascinating. Just watching him go through all that stuff while he was still able to walk around and ride in cars and whatnot, before the Parkinson's really took a hold of him. And it was like, you had one last chance to just really take everything in America. And one of the things that they did was they got to see Max Sabbath, the tribute band.
that. Oh yeah.
And that was,
I will say one thing. I am.
I loved it. The smile on Ozzy's face, man, just, that was priceless. But the biggest thing from that,
I will say I am jealous of Ozzy on one thing.
oh yeah,
That that shirt.
yeah, yeah, that chair was incredible.
The bad chair.
Yeah,
I love that chair. I am so jealous of Ozzy for
that's going in
that chair.
that's going in a museum. 1,000,000%. That's going to be in Birmingham. It has to be, and it should never leave Birmingham.
As you were saying,
As far as I'm concerned, it should never leave there, because that is a historical metal piece of history right there.
Nope.
Um, I think the most interesting part of the Ozzy and Jack adventures, since we brought that up, was the fact that Ozzy got to hear the original recordings of his former guitarist, that died in the plane crash, and like I think we all had to take a moment when we saw that and just go, whoa, you know,
Mm.
that was surreal for me. I was like, man, because you could read the emotion in Ozzy's face, and there
Yep.
were a number of times where he just like did not stop talking about him, you know, and how much he missed him. And that just shows you like how much he really really cares about the music he's writing and everything that he's doing.
That's that's what you call love and admiration.
Yeah, and it definitely showed during that concert, like the entire way through, like from
Yep.
the very start to the very finish of just every artist just showing that love and bouncing it right back to him, you know, over many many years. And it's like multi-generational too, bands. You had people from the early days of Sabbath, representing like Slayer, up to nowadays with Youngblood. So it was crazy, like the diversity of artists. That's what blew my mind was like the multi generational gap was closed with that festival and that 9 hour show. And that's something that nobody's been able to ever do. You could have rock tours around the US, the UK, all around the world, and they still would not be able to do that. No matter who they put on tour. But everybody had like 30 minutes to play like one or two Sabbath songs, to cover, or an original Ozzy song and a original song of their own, to show, everybody who these bands are. Sometimes some of these people don't know some of these bands, you know.
Right.
Um, for instance, a lot of people don't know who Youngblood is nowadays. You they may not know who um, Ghost is in some cases. I ran into people nowadays that still don't know who these bands are, which is surprising because of how much popularity they've gained and how much they're all over social media. But hey, you know, it's one of those Coheed and Cambria situations where just like nobody knew who they were for like 10 whole years, and then like suddenly like Rock and Rio just blasted them up to the top. So you just never know. Um, and just recognize everybody for who they are, what they do, and then, oh, hey, here's a Sabbath tribute. You know, this is why we're here. And I love that formula because it worked all the way through the whole 9 hours. That was fascinating to me. Um, I thought it was interesting how you had
I got
like
a
all.
question for you.
Yeah, go for it.
Well,
What's your question? Go for it.
okay. Out of all the bands that you know played in out of all the bands that played from way back in the day,
Mm-hmm.
which ones do you think still had it the most? Like, we already know that most of them are probably going to be retiring in the next 5, 10 years, but
Mm-hmm.
given the fact that this is probably one of their last concerts, how do you feel that each of them performed? Do you think that they're like, kind of need it, it's about time to hang it up, or dang, even in their age, they're still kicking? What was your thoughts about that?
Um, good question. Good question. In the case of Slayer, Slayer was the first one to really get the crowd moving, and that was awesome. They sounded great. Um, who else did they have? Let me pull up the list real quick
Mm-hmm.
because I need to be sure of who all was on that bill. So let's do. Let's see. Um, I need the list. So, we'll we'll actually start with Anthrax. Anthrax was very very interesting. I thought
Hey,
they
buddy, I'll be right back when I can get something to drink, okay?
sure. Anthrax was very interesting because they brought a new fresh perspective on how heavy these bands are on stage. Um, they kind of pushed the envelope a little bit, and I don't know. Maybe the crowd just didn't feel comfortable with them. I'm not sure, but they did a good job though. I felt like they did good. Um, but Anthrax has been around forever. Um, we can talk about Mastodon. Mastodon was interesting too. Um, they've been around for quite a while, and I thought that with a lot of the guitar work of Mastodon was very very interesting, and it always has been throughout the years. What really sets them apart is their style, because it's so different from everything else that's out there, and that's what's kind of kept that formula going for many many years. Um, we could talk about Pantera. Pantera's been around for God knows ages, ages, and Pantera just slayed it. They did a fantastic job, man. I was very very impressed with Pantera. Um, but of Guns N' Roses, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Axl Rose, y'all made a big mistake letting that man have a mic, because
Go ahead.
everybody was making fun of
Oh,
him for sounding like Mickey Mouse. The entire chat went ballistic. That was the most entertaining thing I've seen in a while.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut on that one.
That was freaking hilarious. It was so freaking funny. I even chimed in too. I
For a
was just
second,
like,
I did. For a second there, I didn't even realize that was Axl Rose.
oh my god. I
I
was like,
did.
Disney's missing their
I didn't
mascot.
even realize it was I didn't even realize it was Axl Rose in there. I thought it was Billy Idol.
Billy Idol. That's a good one. God, man. I mean, like, I was never on board with them trying to get Axl Rose with Guns N' Roses, but you gotta have the full band, otherwise it's not Guns N' Roses. So I mean, that's fair. But you know, the point is, like, Axl has just it's been horrendous. It's been horrendous doing any shows with Guns N' Roses. You have to have like backing tracks and garbage like that, you know, just to make it sound decent.
Axl, you should stay retired, buddy.
Yes, please, please stay retired. Like the replacement that you had for Axl was actually doing a pretty good job. They'll never replace your original voice, Axl, but you know, your original voice, man, the OG voice was incredible. You know, when you recorded those albums, but it's just not there anymore, bro. It's not. So, like, the rest of the band had to carry for him, and Slash did an incredible job. I mean, this dude was on fire, just shredding all over the stage. It's Slash. What do you expect? You know, if you know who Slash is, you already know what I'm talking about. And like he has that history of just like once he starts soloing, you can't make that man stop until he wants to stop. So that's what I was hoping for.
Beautiful.
That's kind of what I was on that. The only part of those Sabbath songs that I felt he truly was okay on was the Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, the high notes. You know, the really, really high notes that nobody can reach. It's like, for some reason, he's the only one that could actually reach those notes because he sounded like Mickey Mouse. Yeah, I can't understand. I don't know. And in that moment, it made perfect sense why that song was assigned only to him. Which is crazy, man. You think of all these other artists, nobody could do that. Not even Billy Corgan could hit those notes. You know, so... But Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath has to be covered. I can see just like Sharon Osbourne just going, "Who?" I can just hear that conversation between her and Ozzy right now. Just jeez, man. But yeah, we had to talk about the elephant in the room because it was awful.
I will say this about Billy Corgan.
Yeah. Let's get
That
into Billy
dude
Corgan.
straight up looks like what PlayStation used to create Voldemort for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, Philosopher's Stone. Billy Corgan was just the real life version of that.
I can't unsee it now. Oh my god. You're absolutely right. It's so bad. Oh man. But I'm not a fan of Billy Corgan because the dude's pretty arrogant. You know, you put out some really good songs, and all them, and then like he puts out a new album in like 16 or 17, and it just goes, well, all of these songs are great, but you need to start listening to my new stuff. My new stuff is so great. It's this, that, and the third. You know, it's in his mind. He's just like, oh, it's worthy of a Grammy. It's this, that, and the third. And then you listen to it, and it sounds like trash. It sounds like 21st century, Chinese Democracy from Guns N' Roses. It's just awful. And then he just keeps going on and on and on about it, during that time period. And everybody's just like, no, Billy. Come on, buddy. Metallica fans just like hyping up the Load albums, when Load sounded like trash. So I just can't get on board with that, Billy. Sorry, buddy. But that's really arrogant to act like that and be like, oh yeah, well, my music's so awesome and so great. It's just like, yeah, everybody promotes their music, but you just have to be, actually putting out something decent. Something worth promoting. Otherwise, don't promote it. You know what I'm saying? Just like let the music promote itself. And that's one of the biggest things is like Sabbath and Ozzy they didn't put out flyers. They didn't do any of this extra crap. Back in the day, like everybody else did, to make sure that their band was heard. Shoot. Even Avenged had to throw out like flyers all over LA just to get people to listen to them. And Ozzy and Sabbath never had to do any of that. They were too busy fighting off the evangelists, that were just like, oh yeah, Sabbath's music is satanic or whatever it was, and that's what was keeping them from being put into venues back in the 70s and 80s. So they had their own demons to fight. But the point is, they never had to promote any of that stuff. The music promoted itself. And that's my advice for musicians, if you're out there trying to create music, like ourselves right now. Jeremy's my guitarist. Jeremy's my guitarist, and I'm the vocalist of our own band here.
Pretty much.
And we're focused on substance. That's what we're focused on. It ain't got nothing to do with theatrics. It ain't got nothing to do with flashy advertising and all that crap.
Trust me.
It's just gonna be strictly us, as we are.
Indeed.
Either people like it or they don't. And that's really how some of these other bands started out too. It's either you like it or you don't. And if you don't like it, okay. Well, there's like thousands of other bands. Go check them out.
Yep.
So like I know Disturbed had to do a lot of that back in the day. Like, it came with the territory back in the 80s and 90s. But, like, once they started going to electronics back in the 2000s and 2010s, then you didn't need to do that anymore. Like, places like Spotify and all them, Pandora pretty much promotes it for you. Sirius XM. So they didn't have to do a lot of that nowadays. So with the mixtapes and everything else, it's a lot of fun advertising that stuff. It's hard to do. It's not easy, but it's fun. for them back then. You know, David Draymond will even tell you that. He had fun doing that. Who was actually there, you know, as part of one of the super groups and did a fantastic job with the Sabbath cover. And it blew my mind. I was so happy to see that. They lured Sammy Hagar out of retirement. You know, that's something I'd never expected them to do. They got Fred Durst from Limp Bizkit too. How about that one? But I mean, he and Ozzy go way back. You had all these like super
Right.
groups and everything else. You know, Hailstorm did amazing. Jonathan Davis from Korn. I mean, it's just wild to think about how many people were there. Tom Morello. You know, and
No comment on them.
you know, it's whether you like them or not, they were there. You know, and that's how I kind of felt too. Stomach this, you know, in honor of Sabbath. Yeah. And they didn't get out of line or do anything crazy. It was just them playing music. And that's exactly the point. You know, same thing with Tool. If people don't like Tool, they were just there. They played their two favorite songs that everybody wanted to hear, you know, and then they played a Sabbath cover, and that was that. So, you know, it was cool, man. It was cool how they set this up to where, like, nobody was, like, getting over egotistical or just going too far with it, you know? And just doing what they do best. And I think another one that surprised me was Lamb of God. Lamb of God's cover was incredible. And I thought they got award sounds incredible, you know, in their own style. At first, I was like, Randy, what are you doing? You know, Randy Blythe, the vocalist for him. I was like, what are you doing? And then I listened to it a bit more, and I was just like, hey, this is freaking cool. Like, this is their own take on it, you know, in their own style. And I was like, that's awesome. You know, I didn't think I needed that until I listened to it, and I was like, holy crap, I need that on Spotify. I'm adding that to my playlist. You know, so I think another band that surprised me was Rival Sons. And nobody was really talking about Rival Sons up until that point. Nobody really knew who they were. And I think this is what's going to put them on the map. Officially. And that's another point to doing this as well. Is to try to put a band on the map that hasn't previously been on the map. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I run my mouth a lot. Go ahead. Yeah, like see, there's a few people I'm still trying to meet.
I just said I haven't even you. I don't even use.
Oh, okay.
You're good. I'm
Um,
just sitting here listening to you. When you're done, I will have a chance to talk. No problem. Just
mm,
giving you that
mm.
common courtesy.
Yeah, I think Metallica really dominated the entire night.
Right.
I think they're the ones that the baton has been passed to. Why do I think that? Because one, they gave Metallica, you know, the spot right before Ozzy and Sabbath. Secondly, they gave him like what 6 or 7 songs, versus everybody else, and they could have easily done that for uh, Guns N' Roses or Anthrax or even Mastodon or Slayer. But no, they chose Metallica for a good reason, you know, because it's Metallica. Look at the M72 tour that they've been doing. I mean, they've been filling up stadium after stadium after stadium after stadium. I was there for one of those in Charlotte, and it was incredible. Just witnessing that and being a part of that was incredible. Like, it's historical. You had an earthquake happen during Enter Sandman in Virginia Tech. That's crazy, dude. Like, so it could be an earthquake. It could be, Adam Gautier jumping off the scaffolding of a gigantic stage. Like, it's just wild stuff. Like, I've got stories, y'all. I got stories. But the main thing today was this Black Sabbath concert because of how important this was. Um, and the fact that Bill Ward was actually with them this time was massively important. They only played 3, but the 3 that they played were my 3 favorite Sabbath songs ever. Actually, 4, because they did include NIB, didn't they? I believe they did. So that's 4 of my favorite songs of Sabbath. This is the way I wanted them to go out. Perfectly. In this way. Everybody kept their cool. Everybody was chill. Everybody wasn't going too far with their crap, with their ego. Because every artist has their own ego. You gotta have a little bit of ego to be a famous artist like some of these people. It comes with the territory. Same with YouTubers. So
Say more. I'm honestly more familiar with Ozzy's subject.
yeah, Sabbath is. I'm so happy that they didn't play anything from the Dio era. Because the main point was to highlight the first original 4 and just put an end to it, the right way. And everybody did their part perfectly. The stage crew, the lighting, everybody did a fantastic job. Everybody deserves credit. And would have never happened.
Right.
You're welcome. She was the one that got on the phone with all these people. You're welcome. So, you had Jason Momoa there. Jason Momoa is like in the pit, just having fun. And for people that don't know who Jason Momoa is, he played Aquaman. you know, in the live action DC movies. But that dude is a beast of a guy. And you put him in that pit, man, he's a monster. It was so fun watching him mosh, dude. I just enjoyed that. That was so cool. But it highlights the fact that he's a metal fan just like everybody else. And he's just like, he doesn't think too highly of himself. He doesn't think he's like too big for the moment. He's just a regular guy in the crowd. You know, just enjoying the metal music just like everybody else. And I think that's what's so cool about all this. Is like everybody felt like that while we were watching that. You know, we all felt the emotions. We all felt like we were all going through the train ride. The crazy train ride. That's what's, you know, everybody was crying during My Mom Coming Home, you know, for example, from Ozzy's original work. You know, and it's the fact that these songs will never be performed live again. You know, that really hit everybody like a freight. It hit me like a freight train. And that's a special one right there. Because he performed that song with so much gusto. It was so emotional and different than every other time that he's performed it. Just wow. I don't think I've ever encountered that before. Ever. While watching live shows. Or being at some of these shows. Never. I think the only thing that really might compare is like Jimmy the Rap Sullivan with his drums. Or Paul Gray with his bass guitar. But, you know, nobody knew that Paul Gray was going to pass. You know? Nobody really knew that Jimmy was going to pass when he did. But the thing is, like, it's just so sudden. And I had the privilege of being at a Linkin Park show, you know, this year, you know, with the new vocalist. And it just, it hit home with me the fact that you could feel Chester in that stadium with us, in that arena. His presence was there. And it's just like, wow.
Yeah.
It's those moments where, you know, rock and metal music really shine for me. And it's so different from all the rest of these genres out there. Like, it's light years different in that way. I think maybe rapping and R&B can maybe match that with a few things that have happened in their genre. And sometimes with pop music with Michael Jackson, you know. But really, like, the amount of times that this has happened in rock and metal is just unparalleled.
There's really no comparison.
Yeah, I don't think there is. Like, and this is, you know, every genre can say, oh, well, this is real, you know, this is how we feel, and blah, 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 blah. But to me, the top 3 genres that really feel real to me, where you're listening to the music, you're listening to the lyrics, and it's hitting you. You know, on in a personal way. Is rock number one, country number two, and R&B and rap number three. Because, and go figure, all three of them are the top grossing genres for a reason. So, you take a concert like this one, and it's unreal how much of an impact this has made all over the music industry, no matter what genre you're in. You know, people are watching this and just going, holy crap. We just had 5 million people watching that. 5 million people. Out of what? How many billions of people do we have on Earth? That's wild to think about that. You know what I mean? I that's the legacy and the impact that Sabbath has had and Ozzy himself has had. So for me, it's not Sabbath without Ozzy and Tony Iommi. You see what I mean when I say that? I know people love Dio. Don't get me wrong. Dio was great on his own. You know, with Sabbath. But for me, it's not Sabbath without Ozzy's influence. And his passion and his drive. His unquenchable thirst to be on that stage and just do what he does. And create what he does. And it's a fire that will never go out. That's what inspires everybody to write and do what they do in the rock and metal genre. It even inspires a ton of people outside of the genre to do what they do. That's why you saw so many people like collabing with him and stuff. And I thought it was fascinating. He inspires me every day to be the best musical version of myself that I could be. You know, writing and creating.
There's a reason why. There's a reason why they call him the Godfather of metal.
Exactly. Um, and there's no place better fitting than their hometown to do this.
You know what two songs of Ozzy himself inspired me to play half the time?
Which ones? Sorry, there's a bit of a delay, but go for it. Which ones?
Right.
Um,
There is Hellraiser and No
mhm.
More Tears.
Good choices. Good choices.
Okay. Hellraiser and No More Tears.
honestly, I think the mentality of like listening to anything if it's good is cool, you know. Um, because it allows you to expand your musical horizons, Marcos. So I respect that, because that's how I started out. I started out in pop music. I experimented with a little bit of country before I ever got into metal, and then I heard War Pigs and Iron Man, and it was just like the light switch just went on, and it never went off for me, because that's what started it, you know. And I actually picked up a
Right.
guitar and tried to learn for a little bit too when I was younger. I didn't get very far, of course, but still, the fact that those two songs, started my love of rock and metal cannot be understated. And ironically enough, those were the two that they played. And I could not be happier. I literally had tears of joy that day. He can attest to that. He was there with me, watching it with me. That was absolutely incredible. Um, but it's the fact that those songs will never get played by the original four again, ever.
It was mainly
Man, I have no words, for how that made me feel. I don't know how the rest of y'all felt about that, but honestly, I have no words to properly describe that. Um, Rock and metal has been my passion for many, many years, and will always continue to be my number one favorite genre. And it's because of moments like that. And that's worth every cent of what you pay to get in the door. Every cent. So everybody that paid for that show got their money's worth. And then some by miles and miles and miles. Everybody that paid for the online live stream, we got our money's worth by miles and miles and miles. Because, as a Sabbath fanatic, I'm never going to miss that. I'm going to keep that in my heart and in my mind forever. Till the day I die. Because those are memories that you can't replace right there. It's. Yeah. I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. Because you could go to 100 concerts and never experience what you just experienced there. Rock and metal wise. It's unreal. And shout out to the entire Osborne family, the entire crew that they put together. All of these different musicians, all of these different lighting people, the soundboard people, everybody that helped put that together, because you're all important and you're all a part of rock and roll history and metal history. It's I don't know. How do y'all feel about this? Weigh in. Let me know. If you were at that show, let me know how you felt. if you were watching online, let me know how you felt, because there's so many things that people don't understand about how important that show is, and why things have evolved as far as they have in the rock and metal community. Yeah, Jeremy, I'm gonna let you have your say. Go for it, man. I've spoken for a while, and I want you to have your say. Give him a second, because we got delay. Just whatever comes to mind, brother. Shout out to all the people that are liking and
You're
following the
fine,
stream, by
buddy.
the way.
The way I look at it is you have a lot more to say about it than I do because, as I have said before in private conversations, in my personal experience, yes, uh, Black Sabbath, Black Sabbath, and Metallica, you know, my top two, they got me even started into metal music in the first place, and I was at the age of 12. Before the age of 12, I was listening to pop music and all that. Not gonna lie, I have nothing to hide. No, it's not inappropriate. No, for from the age of 5 to I guess 11 and a half, I was listening to pop music. But there was something about listening to Sabbath or just regular Ozzy or Metallica. There was something about those three whenever my dad would play them on the radio, whenever we would go to like the store or whatever. No, there was something about the depth, the brutal honesty
Mm.
of metal that, in my personal opinion, at the time, you know, that Ozzy and Metallica basically just set the mood. It was a mixture of, hey, this is what I'm feeling, something maybe you're feeling, yada, yada, yada. Three. Um, this is as brutal honesty as it gets. We're not going to sit here and just, you know, uh, beat around the bush just to serve everybody else. This is how we want to describe our feelings. Take it or leave it. And the raw intensity of those emotions. Holy crap. And that's what got me started in the metal music in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
The brutal, honest emotion, you know. And sometimes people can't take the brutal, honest truth. You know, I don't know what people's problem about that is, but sometimes they just can't handle the brutal, honest truth. And I think metal music, or I feel metal music as a means, you know, those deep feelings deep inside you that you cannot let go, whether it's, something murderous, well, can't exactly freaking vocalize any deep, dark thoughts or whatever. People will think you're crazy, whatever the case may be. But those really dark or really passionate or really intense feelings, just in general, you know, in my personal opinion, you know, metal music is an emotional gateway to releasing all those deeper emotions that would get you into trouble pretty much if you were to let it out, in real life.
Mm-hmm.
It's a means. It's kind of like playing a video game in a way, but the when it comes to music, metal music, it's got it hands down. and I have been with metal music since the only thing I can say is, compared to Metallica and Ozzy, you know, um, again, the pioneers of metal, in my opinion. There have been multiple forms of evolution in metal in the past 20 years. You know, I know it first started out, the newer age, I guess you could say, at the time was Papa Roach and all that.
Mm.
You know, again, newer types of heavy metal. Then came Slipknot, to my recollection. Slipknot, when they came about, that was just a mixture of someone's gonna freaking die in the next 10 minutes, and I'm releasing this type of pain. And it's like, when it came to the emotional raw
Mm.
conformity of metal, I'm sorry, but Slipknot took that to a whole new level. And that
Mm-hmm.
band has actually made me cry my darn self on several occasions.
They've changed how people look at
Now,
this stuff.
go after that, you've got uh, Thy Artist Murder, the deathcore scene, the death metal, melodic death metal, Swedish melodic death metal. You got a lot of other genres of metal that are much heavier than America, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, some people just don't dig the vocals because it's a screaming type or death or growling type of music vocal.
Mm.
But in my personal opinion, that's just one little setback. If you can actually like isolate the sounds, you can, you know, you
Yeah.
think of it as this. You're being able to, if you can like separate the sounds or whatever, you can eventually like learn to ignore the vocals if you don't really dig the vocals, but you want the intensity of the instruments.
Mm-hmm.
I do it all the dang time.
Mm-hmm.
There's songs where I don't really care for the lyrics because I don't think they're powerful enough or this or this or that, but heck, the instruments are straight on, man. I'm feeling the instruments, so therefore I'll just pay more attention to the instruments. Or other songs, vice versa. Instruments ain't really there, but the vocals are, man, those vocals are making you cry because you're feeling something down.
Is
You
that
know,
maybe why
brings
people
it up.
weren't
You know,
feeling Anthrax as
I
much?
find that in my opinion,
Possibly.
heavy metal music is kind of more universal than the other mains. It's way more universal because you can go light with it, you can go extremely heavy, you can go dark, you can go so many directions. But at the same time, music is food. Music itself is food for the soul. You know,
Mm.
how how can I say this? For each extreme emotion we have, I think one way or another, a heavy metal genre or whatever has been, invented. You're really angry at your boss. Anthrax, Anthrax. The way I look at it is, um, Anthrax. I've only heard one song from them that I really like. It's Madhouse, and the only reason why I found that out was because of, yes, I was a diehard Guitar Hero fan, and this was
Yeah.
before I became a guitar player, actual guitar player, years ago, years before. But Anthrax, there's only the one song I like from them. When it comes to them, I don't really know too much about them to give yay or nay. But I would say that, for the time period that they formed, it was probably Anthrax was probably known as one of the top few, if I remember correctly. Anthrax was one of the top few that were just below Metallica. And again, this is talking about the the hair slash glam metal genre.
Yeah, to me, like when I was watching Anthrax, like the crowd just wasn't feeling it like they were with Slayer and Pantera, and I was like, "There's something. Maybe they're just not connecting with the growly vocals. Maybe something's just not kicking there, because you gotta understand this is Europe, you know, they're used to all this like crazy stuff, and they see Anthrax and they just go, eh, you know, like. But when Slayer came on, like everybody goes nuts. Pantera, keeps it going. Lamb of God keeps it going. Because they're used to that type of heaviness and just like clear vocals that everybody can understand. But with Anthrax, they're just like, meh, because they've heard like 1,000 of those types of bands, nowadays, that are trying to be like Anthrax. So it's like, okay, well, we've heard this before. You guys are pretty good still, but it's like, you're getting old now. You know. So is that
Because
maybe what
again,
was
if
going on there?
yeah, hmm possibly, like I said, Anthrax is more of the glam metal genre. They got some, when it comes to their tone, they are like close, I would say. Not even close, I'd say about half, maybe even less than that. Because when it comes to guitar tone, in my personal opinion, Anthrax doesn't even come close to the heaviness of Slayer.
Yeah, I've seen Megadeth live, so I can attest to that. And I can now add Metallica to that list too, because I've seen them live now. So I see what you're saying. And like I kind of want to expand on what you're saying with all that. With it's a way to expand, express the emotions that we feel inside. In a healthy and positive way. That doesn't hurt people, that doesn't hurt ourselves. And
Right.
we just let that out. You know,
But
all
yeah,
those emotions out.
when it comes to the harshness of right, when when you're thinking of guitar tone, when you're putting guitar tone, on the microscope, Anthrax is
go ahead and expand on your guitar tone comment. Sorry, folks, he's just catching up. It's a delay on his end.
There's a horrible delay.
Yeah.
When it comes to the guitar tone, um, like, yeah, sorry about that, but yes, when it comes to the subject of the guitar tone itself, if you're talking about harshness versus like softer, you know, I would say Anthrax is kind of on the softer, well, obviously more on the softer side when it comes to the distortion or as the setting on an amp says, gain.
Mm.
Um, Anthrax, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, a lot of the mainstream rock bands from back in the 80s and all that stuff. Yeah, those are, in my opinion, lighter tone because it's like, if I'm not mistaken, back in the 70s and 80s, uh, partially the beginning of the 90s, um, most people were using uh, E standard tuning, but it really just depends on the type of string as well. Because for different tunings, in my personal opinion, depends on if they have a coating or whatever. They are a little bit more comfortable to play over time, and it also depends on the board, the fretboard. Like
Mm.
take my Mike Thompson signature model for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I use mounted slinkies on them to play drop B, doesn't give me too much of the whole uh reverb, the reverb effect on them. It still allows me to like really dig into it for those drop beat riffs that I like to play on that one. Now, when it comes to the strings that is on my Gibson, um, well, my dad gave that to me, and I don't recall asking or him telling me what type of strings he put on there. I actually think he said those were the same factory strings that he bought with the guitar. You know, they were already slapped on there. I know it was tuned to E standard because that's the type of stuff my dad grew up with, you know, back then. Um, but me, since I like, you know, more stuff like, you know, Papa Roach, um, you know, some of the more newer stuff, like I just said, Papa Roach, Five Finger Death Punch, Slipknot, things like that. Um, well, Slipknot I still use my Mick Thompson guitar for because again, drop B tuning. They use drop B and A, so there you go. But I tuned this one to drop D, kind of like the more mainstream heavy metal ones, Stone Sour, Papa Roach, etc., etc. Now, um, for me, the half the reason why I am building a guitar collection is because different tunings right off the bat. You know, if you're playing on stage or whatever, and you know that the song you're playing right now is a different tuning than the song you're going to be playing afterwards in the next song, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's why freaking uh their text basically is take the first guitar, give them the second guitar, easy, because you can tune strings on a guitar all freaking day or whatever, but at the same damn time, it's just like strumming for so many thousand times or whatever. You know, you're eventually gonna wear out that string.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that being said, I think it's a little bit better idea that say you have a few say you have a few guitars or maybe just two.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, like I just said, even with two, if you have two guitars, uh, depends on what type of music you're wanting to play, or maybe you want to practice with an acoustic, whatever. Uh, you can always try to do maybe an acoustic guitar for clean guitars, or you know, barely starting out. You know, for a lot of people that aren't all that confident, and it will help build that confidence. You know, acoustic guitars and strings and all that. For some people, it works. Me, I started right off on an electrical guitar because you can do so much with the tone and all that. Uh, chorus effects, distortional effects, you know, overdrives, so forth and so on. It's amazing. There's a plethora of options you can do with an electrical guitar, and it also depends on what the make of the strings, because there are different companies. D'Addario, Ernie Ball, uh, uh, there was another one, give me, and it's such a popular one too. Dunlop, there we go.
Mm.
Uh, those are the three main strings companies that I'm aware of. Have I experimented with all those strings? For the most part, yeah. Maybe not every type of strings, not every type of combination of strings that they have. Like, take Ernie Ball for example. My favorite my favorite pack of strings for them is skinny top, heavy bottom, specifically drop D tuning. Now you take Mammoth Slinky's same company, Ernie Ball, drop D tuning. I like that extra because I really like to dig into it, like I said previously. Um, Another type of you know, drop D, not D, but drop tuning, that is good other than drop D, drop C. Sometimes drop C sharp or drop D sharp,
Mm-hmm.
uh, drop D sharp tuning. You know, again, when it comes to guitars, there's always a plethora. It just depends on what's comfortable for you to play and what you feel your fingertips can handle after a long uh, session, whether it's gigging uh, or practicing at home. Like me, for example, my Mammoth Slinkies tend to feel a little bit on the rough side after a few different little practice sessions at home. Now, versus the Ernie Ball Super Slinkies that I'm pretty sure came with the Gibson that my dad gave me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, for the Gibson are buttery smooth to play on the Gibson. Buttery smooth.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating, man, and whatnot. And I think that's pretty cool, man. You know, so this is a big show for me because, of course, Black Sabbath's legacy, but also for the fact that this was the biggest charity event for a a concert ever. And you know, a lot of these people that give to these charities and whatnot, you know, that are famous artists and musicians, don't say anything publicly. They just do it, you know, behind the scenes, under the table. You'll never know that it's going on. But, you know, it's concerts like these that have helped so many people that really, really need it. You take, for example, F Cancer, you know, Foundation. I'm going to go ahead and say the word because this is exactly how it was worded when the foundation was created. Fuck Cancer Foundation. You know, shout out to them because that's exactly what it was created to do. It was created to fight cancer. And, you know, there's been so many people donating to that and just helping out with that and stuff like of that nature. And Zach Vengeance has been quietly running this for many, many years. So when you put a show together like this, you know, that massively helps bring awareness to the need for help with Parkinson's and things of that nature because of Ozzy, it's big, man. You know, it's something to be celebrated and paid attention to. You know, and I think that is something that has been completely unnoticed and gone unchecked throughout this whole thing. You know, everybody's been focused on all the artists and how they did on the covers and Sabbath and Ozzy himself, but nobody's paying attention to the foundation that was donated to. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's big. So you got St. Jude's that, you know, a lot of these YouTubers donate to that helps them out. You know, it's and Keanu Reeves actually is quietly helping people out, you know, with donations and stuff like that. And there's a lot of these different artists and musicians, you know, that do all kinds of stuff. And I think it's super cool, man. You know, they don't have to have overinflated egos and say they're doing this, that, and the third. You know, they're just doing it, you know, because it's helping people. But music helps us in a way of healing and finding peace within ourselves, letting those emotions out so that we can empty ourselves.
Yeah.
And these lyrics for these songs resonate with us in different ways. There's so many different interpretations of these song lyrics for different songs. And it's beautiful to watch that because you take a look at Manson, for example. You know, his songs are interpretatable in so many ways. And it's just beautiful. You know, yes, he does need to work on his live shows. That's the nicest thing I'll say there. But if you listen to his music, focus on his music and his lyrics writing. It's actually brilliant. And I'll say this for Ronnie Radke, his lyrics writing is genius. Like, there are so many people that resonate and feel the way that these artists do when they wrote these songs. You know, that yes, it is important to note that these artists did feel that way when they wrote these songs, but they may not feel in the current moment that they were listening to that song. So it's kind of different, you know, in a way of how it impacts people. You know, and it impacts you personally in your own situation, in your own personal way. For example, I went through a 2-year depression. That's been known now, publicly. I've said that multiple times. I'm proud of those 2 years, how I felt during those 2 years. But when you go and you listen to certain types of music, it makes you feel a certain way. Um, Lacey Sturm's music with Flyleaf was the only thing that really got through to me. And that hit me on a very, very personal level. But likewise, when I was pissed off and angry, I would listen to Lamb of God, I would listen to Slipknot, I would listen to Metallica, Slayer, and I would get all that emotion out. So, every band has its own different songs and different emotions that hit us in a different way for very, very different situations. And I think that's when it can empower us, it can strengthen us, it can create new ways of coping with things. And metal music is metal and rock music are very big on doing that. Exactly. Right there. And that's why people so readily resonate with this stuff. Because it's real to them. It's real. It's not, you're not talking about weed or picking up chicks or driving a new freaking Mercedes Benz or crying at a bar, it's are able to convey in their songwriting, and it's stuff that they felt at that time period. They went through it too. You have to remember, these people are people just like you and me. They listened to bands before, they became famous. And went to shows. There's David Draymond's another one. He went to a few shows. So there's multiple different cases of this where it's really, really cool. And they became fans of another band before they started up what they did. In the case of Black Sabbath, they were humongous fans of the Beatles. Well, Ozzy was in particular. I don't know about the rest of them, but Ozzy was a fanatic. So there you go. Like, he's always wanted to do a song with one of the members of the Beatles, and I'm all for it. I want to see it happen. That's one of the few things he has not done. And that, to me, would really seal off his legacy.
It's an ever-growing trend.
So, that's, the way that music resonates with people is just incredible. It's very real, and it's emotional in a lot of cases, like he just mentioned. Depending on the song, depending on the level of darkness in it, in metal and rock, it can really hit you like a 10-ton train. And other songs can be hopeful, joyful, drive people towards it, but, if the shoe fits for you, go for it. If the water's warm for you, go for it. But what I'm saying is, like, this is what the rock and metal genre is, to me. How I see it. And this is why I've been such a huge advocate of writing my own stuff and being heavily invested in it as much as I am and passionate about it. And the same for Jeremy here. That's why he picked up a guitar. Is some of these amazing guitarists that have put every ounce of their feelings and emotions and passion and love into their songs with every note that they play. And it's the same with all these different artists, you know, that are up and coming, you know, and even the kids. I've seen kids that are 7 or 8 years old, you know, playing drums, you know, full, beautiful drum sets, you know, and just absolutely playing the heck out of them. And it just makes me so happy and proud, you know, that each new generation is inspiring the next. This is the legacy you created, Ozzy. You know, it goes so much deeper than just the artists themselves. It goes so much deeper than just what you're hearing on Spotify or YouTube. It's deep, man. It's deep. And it's amazing. And that's for rap and stuff like that too. R&B, country singers. They pick up the mic because of you. And it's beautiful. So Ozzy, if you're listening to this by some random chance, thank you for everything you created, man. Because without you, none of this would be possible. None of it. And I hope you understand the legacy. So this show not only celebrates Black Sabbath, but it celebrates every part of what metal and rock music is. The soul, the passion, the love, the energy, the ability to help people and heal people and strengthen people and give people an outlet for all their emotions. And it's just, I hope that inspires so many freaking people, man, to do their own thing. I hope this explodes the music industry as far as artists, you know, getting into it. I hope it goes nuts, you know, because that's what it was designed to do. How important this is. You know, not even Sharon truly understands it. What Ozzy has created, you can't even wrap your brain around it. You can't mentally comprehend it in terms of music. That's why he's so celebrated. That is why he is so known. Why he is so loved. It's because of that passion and what he's created. So when you go and you listen to your favorite artists, whoever they may be, you know, in the rock and metal genre, or even in the pop genre, or in R&B, remember what he has done. And remember, like, how that impacts these artists that you're listening to. You know, because everybody has played a riff inspired by Tony Iommi at some point. If you play a guitar, if you play a bass guitar, you know, you were inspired by Geezer at some point, in some way, shape, or form. You know, drums. If you've ever messed around with a drum set, Bill Ward was a part of it, because Bill Ward was the reason that people picked up drumsticks. In many, many cases. And songwriting wise, Ozzy and Tony together are the reason that many people are writing some of the songs that they are today. You know, and it saved people's lives, literally. You know, David Draymond was literally talking about that several times. how he never gets tired of hearing all these stories and VIP meetings and whatnot. You know, people that his music has literally saved. That inspiration came from Sabbath, from Ozzy, from Tony. So it's so much more than just celebrating the band. It's celebrating everything. Everything that metal and rock is in music in general. That's why this is so important. This is why I wanted to go on this stream and talk about this stuff with my buddy Jeremy. That's a guitarist. Because there's so much more that people need to understand. That it's not just one simple concert, you know, to end Black Sabbath once and for all. Oh yeah. Like there's been 100 of those, you know, but this is the one that hit the hardest. And this is the one that they're going to end their legacy with. For a reason. For a big reason. Because of what I just stated to you. You know, and nobody's talking about that. All they're talking about is just the artists, you know, how well the stage production was, you know, the stage circles back around, you know, and it's efficient and whatnot, which is really cool. You know, the stage rotated around, which was very, very cool for, you know, setup and whatnot, which was fascinating to me is watching bands get set up. But that's not what's important, y'all. No. No. What's important is what this is and why it exists in the first place. And I get it.
In a way, it was a pass the torch moment.
Indeed it is. It's a pass the torch moment. Yes. Because Sabbath is now passing that torch to Metallica. Metallica now has to carry that flame. And do all the things that they've been doing to continue that legacy. And I think that's the perfect choice. I can't think of a better choice than Metallica to do that. They chose wisely. You know, and the fact that they opened for Ozzy and Sabbath, that's not a coincidence. That is in no way a coincidence at all. That's passing the torch. That's passing the legacy onto them. And that's massive, massive shoes to fill for Metallica. And to them, I say good luck. You're going to need it. But the crazy thing is, they've already been doing it. They've already been doing it for many, many years. Exactly what we've been talking about. They get it. All these major artists get it, man. You know? They get how big of an impact this is on the newer generation. They get why this is so critical that people hear this message, you know? And they've been spreading that message for many years. People just didn't want to listen because they were too busy listening to the music and just jamming out that they didn't stop to think, holy crap, you know? There's so much more to it. So, yeah, I think that when you put all of this into perspective and you say, all of this is a part of what metal and rock music is and what music is in general. you can't wrap your brain around it. You can't fully comprehend it. And that's why emotionally people were just like, I can't handle this. Like, it was so overwhelming. And to those people, I say, I get it. I felt the same way you did. And it hit me, man. It hit me, man. Because, my God, the emotional impact. It's going to be felt for generations. You're always going to have those people that are just like, oh yeah, well it's Sabbath, they're just trying to end their career, you know, da 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 da. They don't get it. They don't understand what just happened here. They can't even scratch the surface of what we're talking about right now. They're still at base level, just saying, oh, it's Sabbath, blah, 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 you know. And then you got the common listener that's like, okay, yeah, this is incredibly big. You know, all these artists are getting back together, you know, da da da. You know, maybe I'll check it out. Maybe I'll just see what's going on. And they got awakened to how big this is. Even the common listener that may or may not even be into rock and metal paid attention to that. That's part of that 5 million. And they paid attention because they knew how big this is. And they understood. That's the impact that we're talking about here. That's why I say it's going to be felt for generations. Through 3 or 4 different genres. And again, it's like so hard to comprehend it. And the fact that these songs will never get played again, it's just... Emotionally, I couldn't handle it. I broke down, and I'm not afraid to say I did. I am not afraid to say that on camera. Because that's how special that was to me. But, yeah. Leaving a legacy is important, and just understanding, like, how this is helping so many people is important. It's not about the artists. It's not about, you know, the usual hoopla of a concert. You know, it's so much deeper. And all of these artists understood that were invited and accepted. Even Tool, that was just like, yeah, we don't like having our stuff live streamed, but da 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 da, you know. And it's like, even they were just like, screw it. This is important enough that we need to have our stuff live streamed. You know, we'll bend the rules this time because of how important this is and how many people this can impact. Exposure, everything, you know. God knows how many countless lives that could have saved. A lot to unpack. It really. And we could spend freaking 5 hours talking about how, you know, Slash was shredding on the guitar, you know, or Lamb of God had an excellent cover of Sabbath, or Ozzy's, you know, songs were impactful and meaningful, but end of the day, What was the point of all of this? You know, why did they create this amazing event? I'll tell you why. To heal and help people. Bottom line. That was the point of Sabbath to begin with. They were always rebellious, energetic, passionate about what they do, and creative. And that's what you're going to see from all these different bands that are coming out here nowadays. Newer bands. Every generation newer bands. You got artist kids that are in bands. Corey Taylor's son, you know, has his own band. And I think that's just the freaking coolest thing ever. Like, come on, man. Like, that's so cool. So, this is never gonna die, man. Metal is never ever gonna die. Gene, I don't know where you're getting that delusional idea from, but you're just dead wrong. In so many ways. That I can't even begin to scratch the surface on. And I will debate him for hours on that. But, yeah, this was humongously big. People will see this as a cash grab. I see it as all the things I just described. And then some. Your thoughts on this, Jeremy? Go ahead, buddy. And do keep in mind, folks, there is a delay on his end, so just give him a second. I know that's a lot to take in. Giving him a second to process all that and oh my goodness. You there, buddy? Alright. I'll just continue talking then, I guess. Till he gets back. But, yeah, it's crazy to me, some of the lyrics that we see out there today. You know, from different bands. And different artists. And occasionally I will go over to another genre and check it out, you know, like the rap
Can you
artists.
hear me?
Yeah.
Alright, cool.
Yeah. Are you caught up now, delay wise?
Should be. Sorry about that.
You're good. You're good. Yeah, go ahead and give your thoughts on all that.
Like I was trying to say earlier, sorry, I don't know why the earbuds I was using does that, but anyways, as a guitar player, you pretty much said everything that had to be said. You know, of course, I'm pretty sure everybody's gonna say the same thing, but in their own version. That way, it's
those thoughts and feelings are there. You know what I'm saying? But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, if anybody has any questions for me when it comes to guitars, strings or anything like that, um, please feel free to ask. I've only been playing for 7 to 8 years. I've at the previous place I used to live in, a lot of my neighbors would request that I would, leave the window open so they could hear me play. Because when they found out that it was me, not a YouTube video or whatever, they actually enjoyed listening to me play. So, um, yeah, I've been pretty much building my bass, uh, trying to get better, trying to get faster, this and that. Um, I have worked with a lot of digital equipment. You gotta start somewhere. I didn't have the money to get an actual amp. Um, I basically got a laptop, studio monitors, and the audio interface. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I got virtual amplifiers that are like $150. Some of them are free, but yeah, everything I do is all digital. All my amps, everything is all digital. Works just the same. Um, Gives me the mobility to pretty much play anywhere that I want as long as I've got everything connected to an electrical outlet. But yeah, um, on some other notes, I will add this. If you're barely starting out, please pay attention to the way you play. And now I don't say this as a derogatory means. No, just pay attention to the way you play. Be- that way you can find out what techniques are comfortable for you to play. That way you're not getting too tired, you don't hurt your wrist or whatever. Trust me
Mm.
on that.
Yeah.
When it comes to playing, take your time, don't rush. And honestly, I'm sorry to a lot of, you know, teachers out there, I really am. But to anybody wanting to play guitar, honestly, in my personal opinion, you learn to be more creative when everything is self-taught.
I'll agree with that. Sin Gates actually works with the gypsy jazz type music. Um, and that's what inspires a lot of his unique style that he does. Each guitarist has their own different style, much like vocalists and songwriters as well. For me, vocally, it's about 20 different artists, that I focus on inspirational wise. Um, and it's different vocal techniques, you know, the strengths and weaknesses of those, there's so much that's involved with all of that it's almost impossible to keep up with. Um, but if you're learning how to do vocals and all of that, be mindful of um, not trying to copy everybody else all the time, but just be you. Train your own voice. You know, into what you want it to sound like. You know, and yes, you can use those influences to help you. Those are teaching tools for you. But at the end of the day, you want your own unique sound. For your songs and whatever you're trying to create. Um, for songwriting, that's a challenge in and of itself because of copyright. Shout out Poppy Seeds, by the way. Welcome on in. Um, Hope you heard all of that stuff about the Black Sabbath concert, because that's a lot of big stuff that we're talking about here today. But yeah, songwriting wise, like I said, copyright is a big thing, so you have to be very, very wary of that. But you also want to write in your own style, in your own unique way. But the biggest thing about that is, what are you trying to say? What is your message? You know, who are you trying to reach emotionally? You know, who are you trying to help with those certain lyrics? And that to me is big, because if you are, say you're trying to reach somebody that's in a depression, you know, then you're going to tailor your lyrics to match that, you know. And same with guitar work, and that's why they work in tandem so well. Because when you put them together, that's what makes music so unique, you know, in rock and metal, because it works together with a perfect chemistry in some cases. In some others, not so much. And that's why you got to experiment and mess around a little bit until you find out what works for you. You know? And it can take time. It's patience is one of the biggest things that these artists will tell you. You know? When you go and you ask a major artist, like, yeah, I'm an aspiring new artist. What can I do to learn how to do my new craft of what I'm doing music wise? They'll tell you patience. You know, take your time, develop your own style, be you. You know, and keep practicing. That's what I've consistently heard from every single artist. And I've asked a few myself, as a matter of fact. So I know that I got those answers. But yeah, this is that's one of the key factors, is just practice, practice, practice. Understand you and what you're trying to do in your style. And that's what Black Sabbath did really, really well, is they knew how to convey that. You know, Metallica. You know, you talk about Ronnie Radke. You talk about U2. You talk about Michael Jackson. He had his own style, you know, and it worked for him. It worked for all of them, you know, in their own way. So when you're trying to create, you know, whatever you're trying to create, it's got to be impactful. It's got to be inspiring. It's got to help whoever you're sending it to, that message. So, and guitar work can work the same way, much the same way, because it helps convey those emotions that you're feeling. Say, like, a deep, dark anger or a deep, dark sadness. Your guitar tone can match that. And really convey those feelings and reach those people that are feeling that way.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to expand on that?
How can I say this? When it comes to my guitar tone, um, that's kind of what I use drop B for. Um, all I can say is, if you really pay if you really pay attention on the lower notes, like um more towards the neck and all that, especially for the younger, not younger, but the newer guitar players, you know, I would, if you want like sign a sort of a violin sound, you know, on the fretboard, go
Mm.
towards the lower notes, towards the headstock. You know, that is the best thing I can honor. That's the best piece of advice I can give for the whole violin dark type of vibe. Um, Also, don't be afraid to mess around with power chords or do another technique which is often utilized. Um, Barring the A or B power chord, and then using the other three fingers that you have, it gives you a little bit more of a sound variation. You know, you're always gonna have that root note that you're barring, but at the same time, it allows you to do that you know,
Yeah.
because at that point, when you're not only having it barred, but you're also performing another technique which is called hammer-ons and pull-offs, which musicians, yes, I know I'm giving a little bit of a trade secret away. Hammer-ons and pull-offs are one of the so many, no, not so many, but so often utilized techniques
Oh yeah.
for like soloing and things like that. If you
Mm.
ever for that and also tapping, like
Mm.
literally holding your pick in your mouth and like using say the 12th fret, you hold your finger down on that 12th fret. I think for me, well, actually, it really doesn't matter where you start as long as it's on the 12th fret. You keep your finger right there, and you'll sort of like have the basis for like tapping because depending on where you are on your fretboard, sort of like pinched harmonics, it's a sweet spot, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Which
so when you're
artist was
doing
it that actually really revolutionized that? I want to say it's one of the guitarists for Led Zeppelin, but I don't know for sure.
revolutionized what?
Guitar tapping.
Guitar tapping.
Yeah,
Oh
because
wow, I want no. I know what you're talking about, and when it came to like doing weird sounds on the fretboard, like
yes,
the or the
yes,
or the
mm-hmm.
nah, nah, nah. I think what you're talking about, all the weird sounds. I think it was Eddie Van Halen that originally
Yes,
started that.
yes, that's exactly who it was. That's what popularized it. I doubt he was the
Yeah,
first person to do it, but I think he was the first person that really popularized it as a guitar
yeah,
technique.
yeah. Just like so how we just talked about how Eddie Van Halen revolutionized the tapping technique and the other like whammy bar sound effects and all that. Well, there's
Mm.
only one other person that has actually revolutionized one other aspect of one other technique. Can you guess what technique and who revolutionized it?
Matt Heafy from Trivium.
Nope. Way earlier than that.
Hmm. You got me on this one, buddy.
Talking about yeah, I'm talking about the 80s era.
Oh, 80s era. Hmm.
At least I believe they're either 80s or early 90s.
Hmm.
Pantera, bro. Dimebag Daryl, he revolutionized the way that freaking people these days do their pinched harmonics. Cause
Uh,
his pinch
yep. Yep, yep. We talked about this. Yep.
I was about to say, bro, like he utilized that technique like half the dang time, and
Yeah.
that's what he's known for. He's known for utilizing mixing pinch harmonics so much with his regular riffs, and
Yeah.
let's be honest, that's one of the reasons why he's a freaking legend to this day.
Mm-hmm. I think you mentioned finger tapping. I've seen people that will finger tap like double neck guitars and stuff like that, and it's just
Mhm.
like they'll hold it level and then they'll just tap on it. It's crazy. I've seen this in person, and these people are good at this, man. Like
Yeah,
it's wild. Finger
like I
tapping.
said earlier, yeah, like I said earlier, for the tapping thing, put your pick in your mouth because you're basically just using your
Yeah.
fingertips. Okay. Um, for me and my sweet spot, it's the 12th fret. I can go up and down the fretboard, from towards my legs to towards my chin or whatever, up
Yeah.
and down as long as it's on the 12th fret. But as long as I'm uh like putting my finger on and then lifting up that hammer, the hammer on and um pull off. There we go. I couldn't think of the
Pull
term,
off. Yep.
sorry. If you're gonna do the tapping thing, you're basically just doing a bunch of hammer-ons and pull-offs on that 12th fret
Mm.
with that finger, and
Mm-hmm.
then on the like maybe 3 or 4, maybe even 5 frets down towards the headstock, you're basically utilizing whatever fingers you want on whatever strings as long as it's on that same thing. For example,
Mm.
because I know that was a sort of vague answer. I realize that. So say your right finger that you're strumming with, that you're using to do the original tap with,
Mm.
you know, hammer on and pull off on, say you're in drop D tuning. Okay, the third string down, which is the last D string. Okay,
Mm.
hammer on and pull off right on that string, and then same string, third one down, second detuned string, same one. Now you're gonna use your other hand to do, same thing with two or however fingers you want. If you want to do like two, go for it. Three, whatever. But
Mm.
same thing. You're just, doing hammer-ons and pull-offs with the left hand as much as you are doing it with the right hand. The
Mm.
right hand's always going to remain tapping and doing it's always going to be doing the hammer-ons and pull-offs on that specific string, third string down.
Mm-hmm.
But the other ones, as long as it's on that third string down, you can go. You can go towards the headstock, you can go towards the bridge. Doesn't matter. As long as you keep your right hand, I mean your right, whatever finger you're using on your right hand, keep that tapping, the hammer on pull up thing. 12th fret, D string.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones, same thing. D string, third one down. Keep on tapping, hammer ons and pull offs. I know it looks so impressive. The thing it is so easy.
Mm.
Now for me, I'm kind of working on trying to, polish the brass a little bit on my pinched harmonics. I'm not exactly the best at it, but again, it's one of the techniques I'm trying to like brush up on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another thing I want to add as a piece of advice is DI.
Mm.
Whether you are using an amp and you've got a DI box connected to it, or like myself, that I previously stated, using an audio interface. I don't know if all of them have one. I would suggest anybody, well, not suggest, but I encourage anybody to do their own research. Um, but
Mm.
look up an audio interface, see if they have what's called a instrument function. It is literally right next. to the instrument cable port. Now, what DI is basically cleaning up the signal.
Mm-hmm.
If you watch a lot, and I'm talking and I'm with all due respect, guys, I'm talking to you, new guitar players specifically who don't know anything. Don't feel bad. We all started out that way. None of us
Mm-hmm.
know anything about this stuff in the very, very beginning. I was a complete imbecile. I knew nothing. Again, you gotta learn by YouTube, or any other source of guitar information or whatever. Same thing that can apply for anything else, not
Yep.
just guitars. If you want to know something, look it up.
Yep.
YouTube is a wonderful entertainment source, but it's also a wonderful tool for knowledge. And this is
Absolutely.
specifically how I learned. This is how I learned, you know, watching a series called Gear Gods or Rig Rundowns.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I know how to explain certain features on certain gear, because I have watched these videos at least 100 times each. I'm not even gonna lie. That's not exaggeration. I still watch them. But anyways,
Yeah, I
when it
watch
comes to
stuff
DI,
about songwriting too, and vocal
right,
techniques.
absolutely. Now, when it comes to DI, again, you're basically cleaning up the signal. As I'm pretty sure a lot of you have seen, like more experienced guitar players out there. You know who I'm talking about.
Yep.
Um, the ones that have actually watched the same videos I've watched, and they'll even tell you, you know, um, these musicians, more specifically guitar players, will talk about, too much signal or bleeding signal or this or this or this or that. That is because, it's a lot of power energies. I really don't know how to explain that part. I'm not an electrical engineer. I'm not gonna even try to pretend to be one. But
Mm.
anyways, um, basically you're putting out a lot of signal, and for the most part, yeah, the signal sounds really, really, really good. But like also they say in these videos, you'll get a lot of or a high pitched squeal or whatever. All these little random noises or sounds that's coming from the amp. That's because again, there's a lot of signal involved in the signal chain, which is guitar, chord, your amplifier or an audio interface, like
Mm.
I've mentioned. You
Yep.
know, all that stuff is connected. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, granted, an amp is going to be connected to a, cabinet, which is whether it's 4x12, 2 by whatever. There's different sizes, and the sizes mean different amounts of speakers that are in them.
Mm-hmm.
But for the signal chain of a computer, like what I utilize, you're basically not only transforming the guitar signal into a signal that the computer can read through the interface, basically a converter in a way, but also it's going to be the same amount of energy of output energy or whatever. You're going to be bleeding too much. There's
Mm.
where the humming sounds come from, the whole high pitched squealing sounds. Any of those unwanted sounds, that's what is causing all that. It's too much signal. So what's DI for? It cleans up the signal, sort of
Mm.
like a resistor in a way, or
Mm-hmm.
sort of just like basically cleans it up to where you're still getting that raw distortion sound or that really clean, acoustic or bluesy or jazzy tones you're looking for. You know, to everybody out there, whatever tones you're going for, basically what that DI is basically it gets rid of all that unwanted sound. The humming, the high pitched squealing, all that stuff. It helps clear that up, if not completely, at least mostly. But there are noise suppressors also out there that if you don't have an an audio interface like myself, there's boxes, there's DI boxes. There's also things called noise gate. Like some amps do have, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's more or less like the signature amplifiers, because I know Sinister Gates. Um, uh,
Yeah, he definitely
I
uses one.
forget that. Yeah, Sinister Gates, Kerry King or whatever. I forget the name of the dude, but he's the guitarist of Slayer, the
Yeah,
bald dude
yep,
with the
yep.
really long beard. Yeah,
I
him.
forget his name too.
His Yeah, his amp also uses a noise gate feature. I was recently watching him, as a matter of fact, 3 days ago. Um,
I think I
on
saw
YouTube,
those same
obviously.
videos. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's mainly the professionals that have with the signature amplifiers that usually show you that they have a noise gate already built into their amplifiers.
Mm.
Because yes, back before signature amplifiers even became a thing, to my knowledge, I could be wrong about this, so take this with a grain of salt, everybody. But before people started, or before professionals started implementing noise gates into their own signature amplifiers, um, there's always been noise gate suppressors along with DI boxes. Noise gate suppressors, I mean, the pedals, noise gates, pedals is what I was actually trying to say. Sorry. Um, yeah, I've never used one, so I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly how much, depending on the controls, on board controls that they have. I've never used one, so I'm not gonna try and lie here and act like I've used one to be able to discuss the different variations or the different depths of how much you can suppress the noise and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not gonna even try it. But when it comes to amp simulators, which I am very well versed in right now, if it's got a if it's got a noise gate pedal simulator to it, go ahead and utilize it. If not,
Mm-hmm.
then uh there's usually within the algorithm of the amplifier simulator itself, like take the Grandifier plugin from Neural DSP. There's not, it doesn't come programmed with a pedal, noise gate pedal. It doesn't come equipped with that, nor does it come equipped with a, nor is there a noise gate on the amplifier itself. Neither is that. That's what I'm trying to say. But when it comes to the program itself, the whole, like, main thing on it does come with a noise gate, and you can actually, like, click on it, go up to raise it, go down to minimize it. Either way. But nowadays, yeah, yes, noise gates are more digitized nowadays, unlike back then when they were actual pedals. But yeah, now that people are breaking out with signature amplifiers, uh King, uh Matt Heafy of Trivia. Actually, no, I take that back. He uses a DI box, but
Mm-hmm.
the other one I was talking about was you brought up to Sinister Gates.
Mm-hmm.
To my knowledge, it's King and Gates that both utilize um their own signature amplifiers. They have noise gates
Yep.
built into them nowadays. To my
Yep.
knowledge, those are the only ones.
Custom
Oh,
built, by the way.
yeah. Oh, yeah. By the way, if I'm not mistaken, for the newbies, based off the research that I recall that I've done, um, I've been doing a lot of research about the Line 6 Helix multi-effects processor and
Mm-hmm.
the what was it? The Kemper Profiler,
Mm.
um, which is basically another modulator, basically. I also was looking up that, and if I remember seeing it correctly, if I do, there was also a noise gate feature on that too.
Mm.
So, like I said, the more modern we become when it comes to music hood, guitar players, especially the newbies, yeah, we got a whole lot of options coming up. I mean, think about it.
Yeah.
Freaking Mick Thompson himself switched over from Jackson to freaking SPELD ESPLTD, and look at his signature pickups. They're Fishman
Yeah.
influence. So trust me, music heavy metal. Those are just some examples that heavy metal is not only not dying, but it's also evolving.
Yep.
So sorry, Gene Simmons, you can go kick rocks, my friend.
Yeah, and there's also those people out there that are complaining about, oh, you have backing tracks and whatnot like that. Okay, well, to a point, yes, I agree. About the backing track stuff because mostly you expect these artists to be able to handle this stuff without a backing track. But once you've been in the industry for like 40, 50 years, and your voice goes to heck, you know,
Yeah,
say Steven Tyler, for example, you know, then it's okay, for a little bit. But, you don't want to totally rely on a backing track to help you out. You got to be able to
yeah,
handle all this stuff yourself. Um, and then there's that
def-
the aspect of everybody having like laptops and stuff like that at shows, you know,
uh, yeah,
to do their concerts and whatnot. You know, yes, I do recognize the fact that a lot of this stuff is necessary, because of electronics and making sure that everything sounds properly, you know. But you can also add like electronic aspects to your music as well, intros, outros, inside of your songs. And a lot of people think, oh, well, people are relying way too much on technology. Okay, well, let's look at Attack Attack, for example. Attack Attack uses a lot of this stuff, and it works. It's a perfect balance, and it works. It's been their formula for, what, 20 years now, and it's still working, even in 2025. You listen to their new singles, it works, dude. Like, they are the best at it. There's at least like 20 or 30 bands trying to match what they're doing, and they can't do it because they've mastered that formula. So that could be a sign for the future of those genres, or it could be, a sign of just electronics being a mainstay in music. But it is where it is, because of the fact that you experimented with it. So, um, but yeah, it is getting kind of late. So, this is the first volume of our uh, music chronicles, that we're going to be doing and podcasts. So if you enjoyed this, let us know, and we'll use this as kind of a experiment to see if people like this or not, and if they do, we'll continue doing this because I feel like this has helped reach a lot of people and help some people here, that were interested in music and whatnot, such as Marcos who doesn't really have any favorite music. He's just listening to anything that's good. If maybe we helped you find something, that might have interested you. We could talk about different bands. We could talk about, we can have a whole stream on lyrics, of songs. Um, we could have a stream on the impact of different music and musicians over the years. I mean, And it doesn't have to just strictly stay rock and metal, topic wise. We can go any direction with it that you guys want. I'm not as well versed in a few of these different genres, but rock and metal, country, and pop music I am mostly versed in. So, if anybody wants to come in and talk about some of the other ones, you're more than welcome to. We would welcome people in. I just don't want it to get too crazy, but if you have conversations that you want to bring to the table and talk about this stuff, please do reach out. Here's my socials. You can reach me on Instagram, but the best way to reach me is on Facebook group page. Just PM me. Look for my posts under my name, Corey. So, and you'll find me on there. But yeah. Anything else you want to wrap up with? Any final thoughts? Because I've got Panthers stuff to do tomorrow. That's why I'm wrapping up early with this. That's my moderator. He was Lock Poppy, but now he's Poppy Seeds. Excited to see I Love AGT. What is that? I don't know. But whatever it is, I'm glad you're excited for it. But
Whatever floats your boat.
right, man. I'm excited for music, man. I'm excited for what that Black Sabbath concert's done, man, and for people, and I want to see the impact. Let's see
I
what
actually
happens.
discovered a new band today.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, the one I sent you through Facebook Messenger.
Oh, okay. I would love to be able to do like song reviews and stuff like that, but see, the thing is copyright. Ouch. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to get copyright strikes. This channel's too important for that. For what we're doing here. But I would love to be able to find a way to do that at some point, though. So if anybody's got any suggestions, let me know. But copyright's a beast, man. It is. But we're going to find a way to tackle it together. But yeah, if you found any of this helpful or impactful to you, let me know. I love seeing comments and hearing stuff about this. I love engaging conversations about this stuff. So please do. Also, one last thing, Panthers related news. Nick Scorton has officially signed his rookie contract. That's the main purpose of this channel is Panthers related stuff. So that is the final rookie contract. We are set to go for training camp tomorrow, officially. I don't know what the schedule is going to look like, so just bear with me. They haven't officially released it, as far as my knowledge. So we're going to be playing it by ear. We'll see what happens. But I do know that sometime in the next few days will be the first one, if not tomorrow. So we'll get things started. And this will be the first day of the first calendar year of 2025 for the Carolina Panthers Keep Pounding YouTube channel. We're resetting the books. So let's get this thing rolling. So hope you guys enjoyed. My name is Corey, and this is the Keep Pounding channel. And this is Mr. Jeremy, my guitarist.
As always, it's a pleasure. Love
Abs-
love all y'all. Be safe out there. Good Graysons. Stay metal. Kick ass.
It is absolutely a pleasure to have you on stream, Maddie. And we'll be doing more of these, hopefully, in the future. But yeah, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit that bell, select all, leave a comment down below if you feel like doing so, and don't forget to check out the Facebook group page. Keep pounding in all caps for in-game posts, polls, opinions, and reactions to NFL news, especially now that we've got training camp coming in. And don't forget to check out Lindara Tai on Instagram if you want to improve your stream and you want better intros like the one you see on your screen right now. Using her last name first, Tai, T-A-I dot Lindara, Lindara on Instagram search. Fair pricing, awesome to work with, and just an awesome person in general. So tell her we sent you, and she'll hook you up. Alright, guys. For the streams, we'll let you know.